Tell me a little bit about your current work and how it relates to school meals.
I'm currently Director of Operations for Southwest Food Service Excellence in Northeast Texas, and I've been doing school food service in some capacity for 15 years.
What do you think are currently the biggest improvements you've seen in school meals?
I think the most biggest improvements and the most exciting things are how creative and innovative school meals are becoming. It doesn't really matter what the regulations are, all the new things they throw at you. School meals follow the social trends of what people really are wanting to eat around the country. And I think that's really cool because it's still sometimes I think school lunch has a chicken nugget pizza reputation that that's all we do is we just kind of crank out some frozen food, and that is not at all the case. There are just places all over the country where people are doing fantastic things. There's made to order bars, noodle stations, Mediterranean fare, vegan options, vegetarian. It's really actually pretty exciting.
Tracy, you talked a little bit about options like build your own and customization. Do you think that's a big new trend that we'll see more of?
I think so. I think the biggest setback or the problems that people have in doing build your own is the time that you have to serve students. So when you have build your own at malls and different restaurants, you don't have that. I have to get two or 300 kids through the line in the next 15 minutes. So I think you have to get really, really creative with that food service. But yes, I think it's still catching on. It's really kind of the hot thing going right now.
What is the best school meal you've ever had?
Okay, I need to really cheat and see if I can say three. Can you say
Yes,
three?
of
Okay,
course.
all right. I think the best three meals I've ever had. I had a chicken teriyaki noodle bowl with sriracha that I honestly, I would have thought if I did not know that was a school meal that I just went to the local Asian restaurant. It was fantastic. And next one was a really great fish taco with a cabbage salsa slaw, which was fantastic, homemade from scratch. And then the next one is not really creative or innovative, but that's Thanksgiving dinner. And while there's not really anything, it's like, well, everybody has the same Thanksgiving dinner. It gets really exciting in schools where they do it up really big. I know in Texas we do it really big. I know that's a surprise because we're in Texas. But the ladies take so much pride in that, and it's such a comfort food, and it's just a love fest on the plate. I mean, you can just tell that the ladies really care. A lot of times, when a school district isn't scratch cooking, they will actually scratch cook that particular meal. So it's just really special.
Could you tell us a little bit about some of the challenges to scratch cooking in school meals and if you think we'll see more of that in the future?
Yeah, sometimes it seems like we went from scratch to heat and serve, and now we're going back to scratch. I think one of the main things that actually launched the scratch cooking coming back was the whole Healthy Hungry Free Kids Act. Whenever the sodium reductions and things got crazy, we realized, hey, if we're making everything from scratch in the kitchen, we can control all that sodium and all the fat things that go in there. But in the meantime, a lot of schools took out all the equipment that they needed to scratch cook and put in everything for heat and serve. So yes, I think we're definitely going back. The trends are wanting healthier food, scratch cooked food, locally sourced food. So it's going that way. It is a huge undertaking to go from a heat and serve to scratch cooking. And I think the key to that success is to pick one thing that you're going to do one recipe at a time. So you pull that recipe out and you say, okay, I was using some pre-cooked beef, I'm going to use raw hamburger. Or I have this one particular chicken item, the chicken drummies, now we're going to go to raw. And to really, really bring your whole staff in and talk about that, because if you don't have the front line, people understand this is what we have to do. Sometimes it takes your front line that realizes, hey, I need this equipment. I don't have what I need. So it's a big conversation and do one thing at a time to take it really slow. And after you get that down, you can make the next step.
Can you tell us a little bit about what you think some of the secrets to success are for being a school food service director?
I think the number one thing is whether or not you've worked your way up into that position, whether you've just come out of college, you have to listen to the people that have already been there before you. So you have to make sure that you hear their concerns, that you get to know them, and that everybody feels like they're on the same page. At the beginning of every day and at the end of every day, the motto should be, did we feed every student? Did we offer every single student the best meal we could with the best service that we can? And so sometimes when you come into that director role, especially if you're brand new to it, you was just everything's overwhelming. And that happened to me, I'd have to go home at the end of the day and say, did any child not get food today that wanted it? And if I could say all the children got offered food, then that day was a success. So that's what you have to boil it down to sometimes. Is just kind of take that one little bite. Um, After that, there is a huge balance of everything, and it's just biting off one thing at a time. So you have to say, okay, did I meet all the regulations? Of course. Not reimbursable meals if I didn't do that. Did all the students get fed? Did I give the best quality I could? So maybe you have to just say, I'm going to work on quality right now. That's maybe what you need. Maybe you need to work on customer service. Maybe you need to work on line speed. But instead of letting all of those things overwhelm you, you're going to have to focus on one major thing at a time. Everything has to keep going, but you can only really focus your attention on making that improvement, or maybe just gaining learning on something that you don't understand, one thing at a time.
What words of encouragement do you have for those working in school meals and trying to improve the quality of meals served?
I think the biggest thing is don't get discouraged. It's going to be discouraging. Sometimes there is negative feedback, and the general public really doesn't understand what it takes, not just to put that meal out, but the procurement process, the labor process, the regulations, and everything there is to do. And it can get really, really discouraging. So, similar to what I said earlier about taking one step at a time, that's kind of what you have to do with the scratch cooking or with improving quality. Maybe improving the quality doesn't mean a scratch product, maybe it means a whole muscle product. Maybe it means that you're batch cooking and you have to arrange your labor. It's taking that one thing at a time, going to everybody, making sure everybody understands what we're accomplishing. So why are we going to do more work? Why are we going to spend more money? Because we believe it's best for the students. So take that one recipe, roll it out, and then one thing that I found that was discouraging when I was improving food quality is we would make a great scratch meal. We would test it among ourselves, think it's fantastic, put it out there to the students, and they wouldn't like it. I mean, it didn't happen every time, but it did happen. So adult palates and children's palates are different, and sometimes we don't take that into account. So whether you're going to roll it out and then do student testing or surveying, or you want to maybe have a focus group in the first place, make sure that you're testing it. And when you get the feedback, listen, use it, and go forward to make that change. You don't have to start all over. Perhaps maybe they liked it, but they didn't like it because there were vegetables they could see in it, or it was just a little too spicy. Whatever that is, that student feedback is really important for our success. You have to keep going and going. Sometimes a recipe 3, 4, 5 times before you find that, hey, this is really right. Then you need to let parents know, you need to let students know, administrators, what you've done so that they can see that food quality. Because if you had a processed chicken patty and now you have a whole muscle, they're not going to know the difference. There's no way for them to tell on the menu or by looking at a plate that that's what's happened. So it's not get discouraged, and one step at a time, and listen to what the kids say, because that's the reason we're here.